Tomorrow, we will witness the last supermoon of the year, and almost everyone is about to get it wrong. One simple mistake, and it could send everything spiraling. There are mistakes you cannot afford to make under this moon. Not this time, not with this energy. This supermoon doesn't give second chances. It marks a final energetic checkpoint, and how you move now decides what follows you into the new year. This moon is not bad, but if you don't follow its rules, it can be deeply upsetting. That's why you need to know exactly what not to do. The first mistake is to believe you need to keep it together right now. The world expects you to wrap the year up with a smile, act strong, act healed, act like everything made sense. But this moon, it doesn't care how put together you look. It cares about what's real. The mistake people will make tomorrow is thinking that breaking down means they're losing. When under this moon, breaking down is actually the moment you shift. Crying isn't weakness, it's a release valve. Laying down isn't giving up, it's your spirit pulling you back into alignment. Letting go of control isn't collapse, it's the exact thing this moon amplifies into a breakthrough. Because the cold supermoon doesn't judge you for being human, it judges you for pretending you're not. And once you understand what this moon really does to people, you'll see why tomorrow is nothing like the full moons you think you know. You keep asking for a sign, a message, a nudge from the universe. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear. You already got the sign, you just didn't like what it asked you to do. The cold supermoon doesn't show you something new. It repeats what's been shown to you all year, but louder, brighter, and impossible to escape. This is the moon that brings back the decision you avoided, the feeling you pushed down, the opportunity you talked yourself out of, the boundary you were too scared to set. It's not giving you new answers. It's giving you the same answer you've ignored because you hoped it would magically change into something easier. The mistake tomorrow is holding out hope that the universe will rewrite the message just to make you comfortable. It won't. The clarity has been there. The pattern has been obvious. The truth has been repeating. You're not waiting for a sign, you're waiting for permission. And this moon doesn't give permission. It gives accountability. Clarity has never been your problem. Courage has. If you can accept that, everything shifts. If you can't, this moon will keep circling you back to the same crossroads until you finally move. And that's when something unexpected happens, the moment people least expect under a full moon, but the moment that changes everything. Everyone is acting right now, and that's the dangerous part. This is the time of year when people slip into characters without even realizing it. The overachiever trying to finish strong, the fixer holding everyone together, the celebrator pretending they're excited, the person who smiles through everything just to look okay. It's a performance, and it's exhausting. But the cold supermoon doesn't respond to performances. It cuts right through them. The mistake people make tomorrow is believing they must end the year as the perfect version of themselves. The one who didn't break, didn't struggle, didn't falter. But that version isn't real. And the more you pretend, the more this moon exposes the gap between who you are and who you're acting like. This is where the cold moon becomes powerful. Not because it judges you, but because it refuses to play along with the mask. If you enter the next cycle pretending, you start the year with a lie. And lies are heavy. They follow you. They shape your choices. They bend your path without you noticing. This moon doesn't ask you to impress it. It asks you to be honest with yourself. This is not the time to prove anything. It's the time to stop performing long enough to feel, what's actually true. Because once that mask cracks, even for a second, something raw, real, and unexpectedly liberating starts to come through. And it sets the stage for a shift that only becomes possible in the next part of this journey. People love to treat full moons like cosmic vending machines. You ask, you wish, you manifest. You expect something magical to drop into your life. And normally, setting intentions under a full moon isn't a bad thing. But under the cold supermoon, rushing into manifestation mode is one of the easiest ways to sabotage the very thing you're hoping to receive. This moon has a tone, and it's not the tone of expansion. It's the tone of truth. It's not focused on what you want next. It's focused on what you refuse to release. Most people don't realize that this moon doesn't respond to desire. It responds to honesty. And when you rush to call something in without clearing the baggage you've been carrying all year, you create a kind of energetic collision. You're trying to bring new energy into a space that's already overcrowded with expectations, disappointments, old stories, fears, and assumptions that don't belong in the next chapter. That's why making a wish too soon backfires. You're planting seeds with hands that are still full. The cold supermoon isn't asking you to demand more from the universe. It's asking you to stop dragging the weight of outdated intentions behind you. Because this moon has a unique frequency, instead of amplifying desire, it amplifies what hasn't been dealt with. If your wish is sitting on top of unresolved energy, this moon won't grant it. It will expose the block that's in the way. Manifestation isn't magic, it's alignment. And you can't align with what's next while you're clinging to what's gone. This moon rewards release, not request. It wants you to create space, to unclench, to let the old version of you crumble so something cleaner can show up. And once you understand that this moon responds to emptiness more than expectation, you realize that the biggest mistake tonight isn't asking for the wrong thing, it's asking too soon. And right when you think you're ready to let go, the cold moon reveals the truth about everything you've been quietly storing inside. People talk about physical clutter all the time. Old clothes, old objects, old spaces that need cleaning. But emotional clutter is far more dangerous, and most people don't even realize how much of it they're carrying. Emotional hoarding happens when you store frustrations you never voiced, memories you never processed, beliefs you outgrew years ago, and expectations that no longer match who you're becoming. You hold on to them the way people hold on to broken things just in case. Just in case they matter later. Just in case someone needs them. Just in case you don't know who you are without them. The cold supermoon shines straight into those corners, the ones you avoid, because you know exactly what's hiding there. This moon doesn't expose your life. It exposes your storage. All the things you keep tucked behind emotional walls. The grudges you haven't admitted you're still carrying. The insecurities you pretend you outgrew. The beliefs you inherited instead of choosing. The roles you play because you're scared to disappoint someone. And here's the dangerous mistake: keeping emotional clutter because it feels familiar. Familiarity is one of the strongest sedations of the human spirit. When you've carried something for a long time, part of you starts believing it belongs to you. But it doesn't. A belief isn't a truth just because it's old. A fear isn't valid just because it stayed with you. An identity isn't aligned just because it's comfortable. This moon isn't asking you to empty your entire emotional world or to discard everything that still has meaning. It's asking you to make a decision, to look at the emotional souvenirs you've collected and ask yourself which ones actually support your next chapter and which ones keep you tied to an outdated version of yourself. Not everything you carry is yours to keep. Some things only stayed because you never put them down. The cost of not letting go is simple. Whatever you refuse to release will become the lens through which you enter the new cycle. And under this moon, that cost becomes impossible to ignore. Because once the cold supermoon exposes what's been piling up inside you, you can't pretend it isn't there anymore. And that realization leads to the next shift, the one this moon brings to the surface when you finally stop resisting what wants to leave. The cold supermoon has a rare way of peeling back everything you've built around yourself, the ambition, the plans, the deadlines, the expectations, the pressure to be someone by the end of the year. It doesn't care about the aesthetics of your progress, it cares about the raw material underneath it. And that's why this moon hits differently. It removes the chase. Most people don't realize how dependent they've become on their goals. Chasing something gives you structure, it gives you identity, it gives you a reason to get out of bed, even when everything feels heavy. But what happens when the cold supermoon pulls all that away for a moment? What happens when you're standing there without your resolutions or your plans or your next milestone to obsess over? It forces the one confrontation people avoid more than anything, the version of themselves that exists without the performance. Most people are terrified of that version, not because it's weak, but because it's unfiltered. It's the part of you that doesn't care about being impressive or strategic or productive. It's the part of you that sits in silence and asks questions you can't answer with a vision board. And this is where the biggest mistake shows up. Tying your identity so tightly to your goals that you forget you existed long before them. Goals can easily become masks, a way to avoid the discomfort of just being. When you constantly have something to chase, you never have to face the parts of yourself you don't understand yet. The cold supermoon pauses the chase and forces you to see the difference between ambition and identity. You'll notice it the moment you slow down. A slight discomfort, a sense of restlessness, a feeling that something is off when you're not pushing towards something. That's the cold mirror revealing how much of your worth you've attached to progress. And the truth is, if you can't sit with yourself without the chase, you're not moving, you're running. Your goals should be built from who you are, not serve as proof that you're enough. And the cold supermoon brings that into sharp focus. It's not asking you to abandon everything you want. It's asking you to remember the part of you that exists beyond all of it. Because if you don't know who you are without your goals end up controlling you. And that is the exact pattern this moon refuses to carry into the next cycle. Reflection is natural at the end of the year. Everyone does it. But under the cold supermoon, reflection becomes a double-edged sword. It can bring closure, or it can trap you in mental loops that feel productive but actually keep you frozen in place. Most people fall into that trap because they don't realize how easily reviewing turns into reliving. This moon has a very specific energy. It closes doors. It wraps up timelines. It pulls the curtain on cycles that were never meant to follow you into the new year. But when you start over-analyzing the past, every mistake, every conversation, every decision, every moment you wish you handled differently, the moon's closing energy can't do its job. Instead of releasing the year, you end up dragging its weight deeper into your identity. Overprocessing feels safe. It gives you the illusion that if you can understand what happened deeply enough, you can finally control it. But the past can't be controlled. It can only be accepted. And the more you try to dissect what's already over, the more power you give it. You start to carry memories as if they're obligations. You turn lessons into wounds. You turn experiences into identities. This is the mistake people make tomorrow, believing reflection will fix the past. But the Cold Supermoon isn't a therapist. It's not here to walk you through emotional archaeology. It's here to close loops, even the loops you didn't get perfect closure from. It wants movement, not spiraling. It wants truth, not emotional scavenger hunting. And here's where the moon becomes brutally honest. The past doesn't need to be understood any deeper than it already is. The lesson already happened. The growth already happened. The wisdom is already yours. Reopening the memory won't change the outcome. It only reactivates the emotion attached to it. There's a difference between honoring your past and dragging it behind you. The Cold Supermoon asks you to choose which one you're doing. Are you acknowledging the past so you can move forward? Or are you using the past as a comfort zone? Because the future feels uncertain. You're allowed to remember without reenacting. You're allowed to understand without obsessing. And you're allowed to close a chapter even if it didn't end perfectly, because sometimes the ending isn't meant to be clean, it's meant to be final. And once you stop wrestling with what already happened, this moon finally frees up the energy that's been blocked all year. And that opens the door to the shift this supermoon has been waiting to reveal. As the cycle closes, the mind tries to analyze everything: the lessons, the patterns, the mistakes, the victories. But the body doesn't care about intellectual closure. It cares about integration. It cares about what hasn't been processed, what hasn't been released, and what hasn't been acknowledged, even if you've thought about it 1,000 times. Under the Cold Supermoon, the body shifts from being quiet and tolerant to becoming the loudest messenger in your entire spiritual experience. Most people go into this moon thinking the tension they feel is emotional or energetic, but the body reveals the truth. The insomnia that keeps showing up isn't just stress. It's your nervous system refusing to let you rest until you deal with the unresolved things you've been carrying for months. The sudden fatigue that makes you crash out of nowhere isn't weakness. It's your system shutting down everything non-essential so you can feel what you've been avoiding. The strange cravings, the tight chest, the pressure in the throat, the racing thoughts, the inability to focus, these aren't random. They're the body's way of saying, you can't take this with you into the next cycle. People talk endlessly about spiritual alignment, but alignment begins in the body. If the body is overloaded, the spirit doesn't move. If the body is resistant, the intuition gets blocked. If the body is ignored, the soul's messages don't land. And the Cold Supermoon makes that painfully clear, because everything you've suppressed rises to the surface as physical sensations you can't logic your way out of. This moon magnifies the final warnings, the last round of signals your body sends before you step into a new energetic cycle. And the mistake people make is ignoring these messages while obsessing over signs, synchronicities, and spiritual meaning. They chase the message while rejecting the messenger. They think they're not spiritually tuned in, when really, their intuition is trying to speak through the only channel that can't be ignored: the body. Your body will tell you the truth long before your mind does. It will react to the wrong path. It will tighten around the wrong people. It will feel heavy around the wrong choices. It will pull you away from spaces you've outgrown. And under this moon, every one of those signals becomes amplified, so you can't pretend it's random anymore. Your body isn't betraying you. It's protecting you from carrying old energy into a new cycle. This supermoon isn't just illuminating your emotions. It's mapping where those emotions have been hiding. And once you start listening to the body instead of fighting it, the entire energetic landscape of your life begins to shift in ways you didn't even realize were possible. One of the biggest misunderstandings in spirituality, and one of the quietest sources of pressure, is this idea that you're supposed to rise above everything. Every emotion, every mistake, every bad moment, every wound. People get stuck thinking that if they were truly spiritual, they'd be able to turn every hardship into wisdom, every discomfort into gratitude, every painful experience into some enlightened breakthrough. But the cold supermoon cuts through that illusion with a level of honesty most people avoid all year. There are experiences in your life that did not come with hidden gifts wrapped inside them. Some moments were simply painful. Some disappointments didn't make you stronger, they just hurt. Some people didn't teach you a lesson, they just left. There are chapters that don't heal you, they shape you, and there are feelings that don't need interpretation, they need space. But because people absorb so many expectations from spiritual culture, the pressure to be above it, to see the bigger picture, to understand the deeper meaning, they end up judging themselves for simply being human. They think having a messy reaction is a sign of failure. They think sadness equals spiritual regression. They think anger means they're not evolving. And that's exactly why this moon arrives with such precision. To remove the unrealistic performance of being okay. The cold supermoon asks a much simpler, much more liberating question. What if you let yourself feel something without deciding whether it's good or bad, aligned or unaligned, high vibration or low vibration? What if you stopped grading your emotions like they're homework? The truth is that trying to transcend everything is just another form of resistance. It looks mature, but it's still avoidance. It's a way of trying to escape the discomfort instead of experiencing it. And this moon is not here to see how quickly you can elevate yourself out of your own feelings. It's here to see whether you can stay with yourself long enough to move through them. You don't need to assign meaning to every moment. Sometimes the meaning is simply, it affected you. You don't need to decode everything your soul feels. Sometimes the soul just feels. You don't need to be the strong one. You need to be the honest one. Not every pain is meant to be transcended. Some pain is meant to be acknowledged. This moon reminds you that you don't grow by forcing enlightenment onto every emotion. You grow by giving yourself permission to be real. When you stop trying to outsmart your experience and instead allow yourself to sit in it without judgment, something surprising happens. The feeling moves on its own. You release without forcing. You heal without analyzing. You transform without trying to ascend. The cold supermoon isn't asking you to figure everything out. It's asking you to finally allow yourself to be exactly where you are, without apologizing for it, and without pretending you've risen above it when you haven't. Ironically, the moment you stop trying to transcend everything is the moment your soul finally has room to rise. The cold supermoon doesn't arrive with fireworks or dramatic cosmic announcements. It communicates in a different language, one most people never learned how to understand, because they're too busy looking for signs that feel big, loud, obvious, or cinematic. But this moon never meant to be theatrical. It's meant to be accurate. And accuracy comes through the subtleties people overlook when they're distracted by their own expectations. This moon brings a message that doesn't use words. It comes through sensations that feel almost insignificant at first, the sudden shift in your breathing when you think about a certain possibility, the quiet discomfort that rises when someone's name enters your mind, the strange weight in your stomach when you try to commit to something your spirit has already outgrown. These tiny signals are usually the first hints of truth, but people dismiss them because they expect intuition to be a dramatic lightning strike. They want an unmistakable, earth-shaking sign. They want certainty dressed in flashing lights. But under this moon, the real signal is the whisper you ignored because it wasn't dramatic enough. Most people mistake silence for emptiness, but the cold supermoon turns silence into a mirror. It forces you to see what's underneath all the things you distract yourself with, the noise you scroll through, the routines you follow automatically, the emotional static you use to fill space, so you never have to sit still long enough to hear yourself clearly. This moon tests whether you can stop long enough to feel what your intuition has been saying all year. And that's why this part of the cycle feels so revealing. When the noise of life gets loud, obligations, the pressure to finish strong, the rushing around the end of the year, the moon asks a simple question. Can you still feel the truth beneath all of that? Not the truth your mind rationalizes, not the truth you think sounds wise, but the truth that shows up in the moments when your guard drops and your body reacts before your thoughts catch up. The people who feel lost right now aren't lost because they don't have guidance. They're lost because they've been taught to ignore the kind of guidance that doesn't scream. Under this moon, intuition isn't a dramatic revelation. It's a quiet inner shift that becomes louder every time you pretend you don't notice it. Intuition doesn't yell because it doesn't need to. Truth doesn't compete for your attention. This moon isn't asking you to search for signs. It's asking you to stop insisting that guidance must look the way you expect. And once you stop fighting the silence, something else becomes clear. The messages you refuse to hear instinctively start showing up in your body, demanding your attention in a way you can no longer brush off. The end of the year has a way of making people panic. It brings out this instinctive countdown energy, like you're running out of time, like you were supposed to transform faster, like you should have been further along by now. There's an invisible pressure to wrap your life into a neat storyline before the calendar flips, as if January 1st demands a perfectly polished version of you. But the cold supermoon interrupts that entire narrative with a truth people forget. This is not a deadline. This is a turning point. The end of the year is not an evaluation of your worth. It's not a scoreboard. It's not proof that you succeeded or failed. It's simply the final exhale before a new inhale begins. And the mistake people make is treating this moment like a test, as if the universe is grading them on how healed, how productive, how stable, or how enlightened they became over the past 12 months. That's not how cycles work. And it's certainly not how this moon works. The cold supermoon reminds us of a natural law humanity forgets. Nothing blooms in winter, not because it's weak, but because growth isn't meant to happen all year long. Winter is the season where everything rests beneath the surface, gathering strength in places that cannot be seen. And people misunderstand that stillness, interpreting it as stagnation, failure, or lack of readiness, when in reality, it's preparation. You're not supposed to be blooming right now. You're supposed to be rooting. You're supposed to be recalibrating. You're supposed to be shedding the tension of the year so the next one doesn't inherit it. If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and subscribe for more insightful content.